Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:30, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Community Development Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionkansas.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you're a part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand, but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionkansas.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Fulks, please call the roll.
Peters, Champosi.
Here.
Vaughn.
Here.
Mosa.
Here.
Ryard.
Here.
Pring.
Here.
Schmid.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here. Our first item of business tonight is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now on an item not on our agenda tonight? Please note public comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Ruperto. I am a Mission, Kansas resident. I have been a Mission, Kansas resident for most of my life, over close to 40 some odd years. Okay, I am, did I cover all the?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here to let this committee know that me and others are opposed to something specific going on in the city of Mission. So we are opposed to the overdevelopment plan for Fox Ridge and Broadmoor. I'm all for progress, and the approximately 300 units that were originally planned there seemed reasonable. The number of units now has jumped to over 600, which seems extremely high for the area. Our neighborhood should not be forced to absorb the number of units to help improve the developers, which sounded like a better bang for their buck. It's also concerning, we were here at last week's meeting, their score on the form-based code. From what we understand and what we've been able to find, the 300 units were approved for $14-ish million in tax incentives. Now, how much more incentives are they going to expect for the additional 300 some odd units? Meanwhile, all of our property taxes continue to increase. That's very concerning. There are many other residents that I've talked to in the area that are concerned about this also. I'm working with my neighbors to organize louder opposition and to continue to show up and spread the word to oppose this massive development. Thank you for letting me share my comments today.
Thank you for your comments.
Chair, if I might.
Please.
For the comparatives benefit, if you're okay, can share sort of the timeline and the process for continued discussion of that development project. So, Laura Smith, City Administrator for the City of Mission. The Planning Commission did take up the preliminary development plan case on this project at their Planning Commission meeting on July 27th. I was actually in attendance at that meeting. As you know, and I think you all are familiar with, we have two processes that run sometime simultaneously, concurrently with one another, sometimes a little bit more disconnected from one another on a large development project of this type. So currently we are in the process of reviewing the zoning, what we refer to as zoning entitlements for this project. So the preliminary development plan is part of the zoning, planning and zoning approvals that would be required for construction of this project. First step in that is submission of that preliminary development plan, or you'll often hear us refer to that as a PDP that goes both through the Planning Commission and then on to the City Council for approval. So the presentation at the July 27th Planning Commission meeting, there was a lot of discussion. And ultimately, the Planning Commission continued the public hearing on that project to their August, I believe, August 24th, if somebody has a calendar in front of them, August 24th meeting. So they have a variety of options that can happen at the preliminary development planning stage at the conclusion of that public hearing. They can continue that public hearing, which I'll come back to in a moment. They can recommend approval or denial, or approval with additional, what we refer to as stipulations or requirements on a plan. Regardless of whether approval or denial happens at the Planning Commission level, that plan moves forward to the council. In order to overturn a decision of the Planning Commission, it takes a supermajority vote of the council. So a denial at the Planning Commission level does not automatically stop consideration of that plan by the city council. And that's sometimes something that can be confusing. And I want to make sure that we're just managing expectations, because we understand that there is a significant amount of public and neighborhood interest in this project. So I feel like it's an important part of our job to make sure that everyone is clear where the touch points are, because I know it is important to all of you, and including the mayor who's not with us this evening, to make sure that you have every opportunity to have that feedback. So the Planning Commission continued that public hearing based on two primary factors. One was the developer had not submitted the information on the materials to reskin the office tower building. Typically, that information is submitted at the outset of, or with the preliminary development plan. So we are in the process of reviewing that, and we'll be able to come back on the 24th with additional recommendations as appropriate related to the materials proposed for the reskin of that building. The other piece that the Planning Commission requested some additional feedback on was information related to the traffic study and interaction and communication with KDOT. We are working to facilitate that, again, to be able to bring that information back to the Planning Commission on the 24th. It is, again, we believe the schedule that this project will be moving forward on is, once the Planning Commission conducts that continued public hearing on the 24th, there will likely be some action at the conclusion of that meeting. Again, that would send that preliminary development plan to the city council for consideration on September 16th, which is the city council meeting. So it will show on your September committee meeting agenda that's an action item. It's a Planning Commission item. If you look at how our agenda is structured, but we don't typically talk a lot about the details and have that public debate at the committee meeting on our Planning Commission projects, because we want that to occur at your city council meeting where that public hearing is moving forward. So there will be plenty of opportunity at that September 16th city council meeting. So those are kind of the next steps that we anticipate. Again, somewhat dependent, that September 16th date is somewhat dependent on the action that the Planning Commission will take on the 24th. So we would consider to welcome employee feedback at any of those meetings. I imagine that there will be continued public participation at the Planning Commission meeting. So the public is welcome to come to the September committee meeting, which I believe is September 3rd. But again, managing expectations, we won't have that really full, robust discussion at that point. It will not be until we get to your legislative meeting where that occurs. So happy to answer any questions about that, but I did want to provide some context. I know Mr. Scott had provided a brief summary of what had happened and the next steps following that July 27th meeting. But there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to this.
Where are we, or where is the developer with the cellular thing on top that they were kind of really, it was almost contingent upon something happening with that before anything could go forward? Where are we with that?
So if you think back to the presentations that they made to the council back earlier this year, their first presentation and look at the project included demolition of the office tower and construction of basically all new buildings and parking structures associated with that project. They then came back to you 45 or 60 days later and said, in their continued due diligence, they learned of the long-term leases, cell leases that were associated with the tower building. And so it would now be their intent to reuse the tower because they did not feel it was financially feasible to relocate or buy out those leases. They did not have that opportunity. So that's when the conversation shifted to reuse of the tower. So new three separate sort of components to the project. The building, very similar, except the parking moves from underneath the building to a parking garage in between. Reuse, reskin, remodel of the office tower, and then construction of a third building to the south along the 58th Street corridor. So that is sort of the plan that was laid out in the preliminary development plan submittal that was provided back in May, probably, in order to make the planning commission timeframe that
So
we've
the
been on.
cellular device would stay on the building, is that correct?
Yes, those multiple antenna towers, whatever repeaters, whatever they are up there, will stay on top of that building.
And these dates of planning commission, everything is available on the website.
I don't know if we've updated that, but we can certainly get that accomplished.
So people would know that they have an opportunity to go.
Yeah, the 8/24 date's on the calendar. There's no agenda or anything yet.
Yeah, we
It's on
haven't,
calendar.
We do a packet the Wednesday before the planning commission meeting. We'll put that out on the website. So that, yeah, we're frantically trying to get the minutes done from that meeting as well. So we'll have that included in the packet. So.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And just to be clear, we have not started the incentive conversation. So that is not occurring at this time. We have not calendared that. And we are waiting for some feedback from the developer about whether they wish to pursue an application to expand an existing TIF district or to create a new TIF district. And then once we have a formal application and direction, we would be able to react and respond to that. And we certainly, I know there was a $14 million number in tax incentives. I don't have that development agreement and the pro forma in front of me this evening, but can certainly, we can make ourselves available to anybody who would like to see a review of that process. And that decision that was made effectively, though, we would be restarting the incentive conversation from scratch because the project is completely different in nature than what was negotiated back in 2025.
Thank you. Okay, we do not have any public presentations this evening, therefore we will move into our action items. Our first action item this evening is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Yes, thank you. Draft minutes of the July 8th Community Development Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
I move
Consent.
we accept.
Okay, consent. All right. Our second action item this evening is for consideration of traffic signal mast replacement from Stephanie Boyce.
Good evening. This item is to request to authorize the replacement of the traffic signal mast arm assembly located in the south median of Shawnee Mission Parkway and Roland Drive in an amount not to exceed $29,937.80. During a routine quarterly inspection, our on-call traffic contractor, Black & McDonald, identified significant corrosion at the base of the mast arm. Traffic signal poles corrode from the inside out, so the deterioration is often not visible until advanced to the point where it affects the structure integrity of the pole. And once that deficiency becomes apparent, replacement is the only acceptable option. The traffic signal poles and mast arms are engineered and certified structural components and can't be repaired or modified without compromising those certifications. Industry standards require replacement once the structural issue is identified. Black & McDonald is the city's competitively selected on-call traffic signal contractor through 2028. Their labor rates and markups were established through that procurement process. They're also qualified by Evergy for work involving traffic signal, electrical systems, and have extensive experience with our infrastructure. Because this is a relatively small, time-sensitive project, utilizing our on-call contractor avoids additional engineering costs and delays associated with preparing and competitively bidding the standalone project. This project is essentially a like for like replacement. Fortunately, the manufacturer is able to provide mast arm that matches the existing infrastructure. Broader signal improvements would be more appropriately considered as part of future reconstruction of Roland Drive, which would likely be eligible for CARS funding, allowing us to offset approximately 50% of the costs, or as part of the future gateway redevelopment efforts. In addition, many of the safety and technology enhancements identified through our recently adopted Safe Streets and Roads for All Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, such as illuminated, no right turn on red, our backlit street signs, and other safety features can be added independently of the mast arm replacement. And staff is actively pursuing implementation grant funding to advance those improvements throughout the community. So at that, we recommend the approval of the replacement in the amount not to exceed $29,937.80 to ensure the continued safe operations at this intersection. Any questions?
I recommend approval on consent.
All right, thank you.
Our next action item this evening is for consideration of an agreement with Evergy for Rock Creek Project utility relocation from Brent Morton.
Thank you. So this is our Rock Creek Stormwater project, designed for 2026 or 2027 construction. It is our stormwater SMP project and has been approved by Johnson County funding at a 50% cost share, which also covers inspection, design, and relocation cost of utilities. This project will improve capacity, stabilize creek channels, replace two of the worst bridges in town that are aging, provide trail upgrades, utility infrastructure improvements, and the big utility improvement would be the sanitary main. We're consolidating with this project. We're getting about 2 crossings out of the creek channel itself. So they are aging, and if those ever go bad or something like that, it's bad for the creek channel when they break in there and contaminate the creek channel. So we are consolidating a bunch of sanitary main as well with this project. The improvements have been highlighted and needed. We've had multiple failures over the last 3 or 4 years with creek banks caving in, walls falling in. The bridge is again rated poorly, so this covers all those things, and we're increasing capacity, lowering the creek channel, better footprint, a little bigger footprint, and that's where the utility relocation comes in. There are several utilities we got to relocate with this project. Gas and Evergy and sanitary are probably the biggest ones. Since everything's on the Evergy poles, a lot of the overhead utilities, fiber, cable, and everything like that just moves over when we move the Evergy poles. So that's a pretty easy lift there. But there's about 9 Evergy poles that are in a dedicated Evergy easement. When anything is in a dedicated utility easement, it usually falls on the cost of who's asking to move those utilities. And that's where this agreement comes into play. They do the design, they work with our engineers, we come up with a good game plan. And we really worked hard on this because we're trying not to move the poles twice and put them back. So we're getting them in a location where if we have to get back in that creek channel, we're not moving utilities and poles and power and everything again, because it's a big lift. So this is an agreement with Evergy for an estimated $120,000, $804 to move 9 utility poles to permanent locations. As soon as we still need some additional easements that we're working on now, for these permanent locations for these new poles, which is on us to acquire. Once those are acquired and passed on to Evergy, they can start their relocation work. The easements you'll probably see in September, or hopefully most of them, but a lot of these easements are going to be running across city property along that creek channel. So those are probably the first ones you're going to see, just so we can get them out there and start getting the poles set. And then once we got all the easements acquired, they can start moving the power over and get us ready to get out there and build the creek channel. Be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
What are the ratings on those 2 deficient bridges?
I think it's 6 and 5 because they dropped a point on the last inventory we did. It's
Is that the most efficient of any of our bridges? Or they're
deficient? Yes,
Deficient, so-
yes, yes. Those are the two worst in town. They've been that way for a long time. And they've stayed, I think it was 6 and 7 for about 5 or 6 years, and they just started dropping points. And the reason we held them there for a little bit, we did repairs maybe 6 years ago to Reed's Bridge to try to string it along for some kind of reimbursement funding to replace that bridge. But yes, they're the two worst in town.
Just out of curiosity, will Evergy also do any like canopy maintenance as they're moving those? Or will that also be something that we have to monitor independently?
I mean, they monitor their own canopy for their power lines. We will be pretty invasive with this creek channel excavation, so I don't think that will come into play for a long time. But they are responsible for maintaining their overhead lines.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Councilmember Vaughn has a question online.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to know, with the moving of these poles, are we interrupting services to customers or residents, and how long will that be interrupted?
So there will be some interruptions. It is on Evergy to notify those customers about those interruptions. I don't have the specific times, but there are times when they can only do those kind of cutovers and interrupt power. But they have a notification process, and they work with their customers when that's going on. I think the standard is between 4 and 6 hours when they cut them over because they leave the old stuff live until they power up the new ones. But I can get some more information on that, but I think it's usually 4 to 6 hours when they're doing power cutovers.
Any other questions? Consent or regular?
I recommend we take it to consent.
Okay. Hey,
Thank you.
So, let's see. Our final action item this evening is for consideration of a design scope change for localized stormwater projects at 6347 West 49th Street and 6334 West 50th Street, also from Brent Morton.
Thank you very much. So yes, this is a scope change for localized drainage or stormwater projects. We've had a rating scale. We started, I think, 3 or 4 years ago for localized projects, and this one's up on the list. That's why I went into design in 2024 and was approved for $150,000 to cover these 2 projects. We worked through the Hodges project was relatively low impact, so that one was kind of pushed a little quicker. It was low expense and we could get it done relatively quickly. So that one was completed last year in 2025. Since then, we have been working on the design for 49th Street, basically in Apollo, and then goes down to 50th Street to Lamar, that kind of stormwater system through there. During the design of it, it was found out that we were building retention to hold back water, and there used to be a through street on 49th Street, or I think there's an easement, like a through street was going to be there at some point. So that's where we were building detention for a 50-year storm. During design, the calculations came out that we would be building that swell or detention pond almost to people's foundations. It was staff's recommendation that we wouldn't pursue that, and we would harden the walls of the detention cell to meet capacity for the 50-year storm, so we could keep it within our right-of-way footprint and not just build up right to people's properties. And we'd be acquiring easements and permanent drainage easements, so those could be difficult going that close to people's property and houses. The scope change includes revised basin geometry for 50-year capacity, geometric design for 2 retaining walls, plan profile sheets, 1-page memo for maintenance as we start doing more of these detention ponds or cells or anything underground. These maintenance packets really help staff make sure they're maintained and we don't spend the money and then it just in 20 years it looks terrible. So it's a good way to keep them maintained. Hydraulic analysis, revised pipe plan from getting rid of the CMP to go into 15-inch concrete pipe or RCP. Project management, coordination, groups, structural review of profiles, condition, coordination with retaining block supplier, and development of details and retaining wall schematics. Also, they will help out during shop drawing review and any questions during construction and bidding phase services. The additional engineering services are necessary to ensure this project is designed to today's standards and stormwater capacity. And it lets us think about moving forward with discussing the timing of building the project, budgeting, and cost sharing moving forward with several properties that this is located on as well.
Anyone have any questions? Wanda, have any questions? No. Okay, regular or consent?
Consent.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Brent. We do not have any discussion items this evening. Before we adjourn, Ms. Smith, are there any department updates for the Community Development Committee?
We do. I think everybody with the exception of Mr. Scott has a department update. So why don't we start with Mr. Almany, if he's sitting behind me. And we'll go into Public Works, then PD, then Justin, then Robin, and then me.
Good evening, Council. So a few announcements for us. We are in the 10th and final week of Mission Summer Camp. So it's been great. We've enjoyed having them there. And now they're getting ready to go back to school. So we have the Powell Community Center annual closure coming up Monday, August 17th through Sunday, August 30th. Some of the larger projects we'll be working on, the indoor slide resurfacing and stair resurfacing, pool deck, dry sauna, rebuilding some of the seating in there. Hardwood floors again resanded, resealed, blinds, and then deep cleaning the entire facility, drywall patches, a lot of the pretty typical elements of running a rental facility. And then we've got one more month of the MFAC. So get your outdoor swim in as soon as possible. Our final day will be the pool party with Pooches on Tuesday, September 8th at 5:30 and 6:30. So put that on your calendar. And then I also wanted to let you know that we are hiring 2 full-time positions. So a little short-handed on the full-time side. It's our facility maintenance supervisor and then our maintenance technician. So in the interim, we're kind of doing our best to spread out some of that, some of the pieces of running the facility. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just a quick update from Public Works. The date we've all been waiting for is right around the corner for our Johnson Drive project to start. That it's going to be within probably the next week and a half, 2 weeks. So I will be pushing out information to you all here pretty soon. We'll be doing some social media updates with Robin and Mila's help and website updates. So we will be getting that information out here soon, and not going to say it won't be without its challenges. So we just appreciate everybody's patience and cooperation as we work through this project to bring forth a beautiful new Johnson Drive.
Yes.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time. That's going to cause traffic changes.
Yes.
And I would ask that somehow we have additional police presence on Riggs. That's the drive-through everybody goes through. They go through that now at a high speed, but they're going to all be using that when the rest of the streets are closed. So I ask that Riggs kind of have some additional monitoring if that's possible. And the obstacle that takes care of showing what the speed limit is, I ask that that be put at the lower end of the street and not at the gradient goes like that. You're not catching anything at the top. So I'd ask that we have that put in somewhere during that period, if that's possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a couple of things that you're going to see, and there will be a lot more information, and traffic patterns and things will be changing in various phases throughout the project. So communication is, we will do our best, but just the trailer. So the construction trailer, you want to talk about where that's going to be located and then
Yeah.
your regular progress meetings and.
Sure. So we are having weekly progress meetings with our contractor and inspectors. Right now, those are virtual because their trailer is not on site yet. That is going to be placed on the city property, kind of between Panera and Big Biscuit, looking towards Metcalf. So the trailer will be on site. There will be a staging area for equipment and materials. Again, like Laura said, we're trying to be as communicative as we can. We've started a distribution list with property owners, business owners along the corridor that are going to be impacted by this, as well as council, city staff who has direct contact with the public. So a lot of the people that will be answering phones or at the counter, along with including the business owners and property owners, the school district, they will not only be affected at the corner of Lamar and Johnson where Horizons is, but our traffic control will also flow into Overland Park in front of the high school. So we're coordinating with their facilities director as well. And then in addition to that distribution list, we'll have fire, transportation. So all the players that are going to be affected by the traffic impacts, including you, because you might be getting phone calls or emails from residents. We want to make sure that those people are on that distribution list. So we will be sending updates out as well as updating our website and social media posts.
I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Good evening. Just wanted to provide two topics. One, several of you were out at our National Night Out event last night. It's kind of hard to measure attendance in an open field like that, so we measure it in hot dogs. So we grilled up 480 hot dogs for that 3-hour period, so that was a pretty good showing. And then also just wanted to get a final push out. Our Citizens Academy that we hold every other year begins in September. And we really need some more people to come and register for that. So the best, if you can get the word out to all your neighbors and constituents, that would be wonderful. And like I said, that begins September 10th and it runs every Thursday for 10 weeks. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, 2 quick items. For those of you that have not had a chance to complete the cybersecurity training, you're officially on the naughty list. So the system is sending out emails to those folks, so you should be getting those. So just be on the lookout. It's the Wiser annual security training. So we also have some employees as well, so you're not alone. And some of you have, but we won't name names. The other item is just a heads up. I'll send a formal email out tomorrow, but Climate Action KC's Climate Action Summit is coming up in 2 months. So it's in October. This year, they're turning the summit into Climate Weekend. So it is, the primary day will be Friday, October 16th. And basically the way it's working this year is they've got a few different tracks set up to participate. So topic areas rather, depending on which track you want to participate in will determine the location you are at, presumably kind of downtown-ish area. And then that afternoon, there will be a formal reception afterwards with a speaker and everything at the Bardo, which is a event venue in the Crossroads. And then the plan is for anyone that wants to continue participating on October 17th on Saturday. It's volunteer day. You can go volunteer with Bridging the Gap or the Go Green Fair. They've got a few things on there. So they're still kind of finalizing some of those details. I do have, when I send an email out tomorrow, I'll be sure to specify. I do know what the topics are that you could choose, but they haven't actually finalized the locations or anything like that. But I'll have all that in an email. If you can respond to that when you have a moment, just so we know, because based on the number of folks that sign up, we'll kind of determine the city's sponsorship level. So.
Thank you, Justin.
Good evening. I have been tasked with introducing and providing some additional information about our marquee event to celebrate the city's 75th anniversary, which is our street dance. It's planned for Saturday, September 26th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the street dance will take place both inside the Mission Theater and outside in the street along Johnston Drive, and then around the corner on Woodson there down to 59th Terrace, which is that small sort of alley street that runs behind the businesses and behind the theater. We've been working hard and had a wonderful meeting this afternoon with our committee, and we have some really fun things ready to go. We've got the Suburbans, which is a six-piece, six-person band that will come and perform from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. So the 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. hour, they will provide some Spotify playlist music for us to sort of get things kicked off. We have 3 food trucks scheduled for the event: Estrella Azul, Smoke and Soul, and the Munchbox, all Mission Market favorites. And we have both Rock Creek and Sand Hills Brewery that will be providing beer garden beers for sale during the event. The inside of the theater will be activated as well. We'll have a slideshow running through Mission throughout the decade. So if you have any photos you would like to contribute to that, please let me know. I'd be happy to take those from you. We'll be running a costume contest, the Through the Decades costume contest that's sponsored by Fiorella's Boutique. So that will be hopefully during the time that the band takes their break, but we're inviting families, groups of friends, neighborhood groups, individuals to dress in their favorite decade. And then there will be several different prizes and some fun trophies maybe to go with those prizes for our winners. Our friends at Wonder and Woe are going to be sponsoring a children's activation area inside their storefront right next to the Mission Theater. So they will have some fun activities for kiddos. And then we are still working on some more business participation outside of the actual event space. We also are running a window decorating contest in the fall as opposed to during the winter holiday season this year. So we're asking Mission businesses if they want to participate to decorate either with a decades theme, with a mission theme, with just a bright, colorful sort of anniversary or birthday theme. And then we will have the voting a little bit different than we do in the winter. It'll be all in public voting. So we'll have a QR code where people can vote for their favorite window, and cash prizes will be handled out for those. So we hope to announce that during the street dance as well. And we're running a 75 Acts of Kindness campaign. So if you haven't seen that yet, Natalie Lucas from the Community Center created this really beautiful graphic. It's a heart and it has 75 spaces you can fill in. And any act of kindness you can do, big, small, somewhere in between, you can fill in a space, and then you turn in your completed form at the Community Center for a chance to win a 1-month pass for yourself and or your family to the Community Center. And I did ask, what if you already have a membership? And they said, no problem. They will just add a month to your membership if someone who wins already has a membership at the Community Center. So those are some things we're really looking forward to. We'll have more to add. We're reaching out to our businesses this week to let them know about the street closure because it will be impactful on a Saturday. Alternative routes that we'll provide maps for that they can communicate to their visitors, to their customers, to their partners. And then also asking if they want to participate in the event with us. We have some cool no-cost advertising ideas for them. We have some partnership ideas, some sponsorship ideas. So we're really hoping to make it truly a community event. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Bond does have a question.
Hello, the only question I have is, I just worry about the weather. So most of the activities will be happening inside the theater, correct?
Yeah, so the weather this year has thrown us for a loop more than once. It's also been incredibly wrong most of the times. So our plan right now is to have the street dance, the band, the live music portion is scheduled for outside, and we are very hopeful that that stays that way. If the weather proves to be incompatible with our event on that date, we can move the band inside. We will have to limit the number of people that can come in order to not put the theater over capacity, but that is our backup plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
And I think our final update relates to, we've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks, had several action item agendas related to utility relocation on the Rock Creek Channel, which was a thing that relocated our Mission Market to Broadmoor Park this season. Obviously, we haven't started or completed that project yet. And so we will be at Broadmoor Park again for the 2027 market season. We will be doing some surveying, as we have 4 more weeks of the market left, but we will be doing some surveying of vendors, of market attendees, of others, about what's working well, so we can make adjustments for that. But we did want to just publicly confirm that we will be at that location again for 2027. And I think that concludes our department updates.
Thank you, Laura. It is now 7:11 PM, and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Community Development Committee.
It is still 7:11 PM, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we'll call on you to go to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Folks, please call the roll.
Hayden Champosi.
Here.
Vaughn. Councilmember Vaughn is on Zoom. Mosa.
Here.
Ryard. Here. Green.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here.
And I believe Councilmember Vaughn may have had a question at the end of the CDC meeting that we missed.
Oh.
If she's still able to hear us and has that question, we can certainly answer it now or later, but I did want to acknowledge that.
Does that come in or? Okay. Our first item of business tonight is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now on an item not on the agenda tonight? Please note public comments are limited to 3 minutes. I do not see anyone in person. Do we have anyone virtually? Nope. All right. We do not have any public presentations this evening, so we're going to move into our action items. First of which is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Yes, thank you. Draft minutes of the July 8th Finance and Administration Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the meeting minutes?
I'll recommend acceptance on consent.
Consent, thank you. Our next action item this evening is for a resolution establishing the 2027 solid waste and stormwater utility rates from Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. Last week at our budget work session, we talked about the need to potentially certify rates for our special assessments to the county ahead of the final adoption of our budget process. So this is a resolution that's being presented to formalize the rate that we discussed for the 2027 solid waste utility fees to be assessed to all single-family residential properties. That total is $211.08 annually, which represents about an $18 increase over last year's total special assessment, or approximately $1.50 a month. And the stormwater utility fee at $28 per equivalent residential unit, or ERU, which is consistent with the rate that is being charged. That is not an increase. But again, that is the rate charged to every single family home, which is $336 a year, but we certify to the county per ERU, because for other commercial properties and larger properties, we calculate the total number of ERUs and multiply it by that rate. So it's not one consistent rate across all properties. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? And there's no here, but I assume none online. Any from the council? Nope. Take a recommendation on this, please.
Regular? Does this have to be on regular?
It doesn't, but
Oh,
regular's fine.
I mean,
For regular on it.
just transparency.
Yep.
Sure.
Regular it is. Our next action item is for a resolution for surplus property from Justin Carroll.
Thank you. So this is a housekeeping item that we have to do via state statute and our own council policies that kind of further dictate that. So basically, we have to come forward to the city council anytime the city wants to get rid of surplus property or equipment, specifically if anything's valued over $5,000. And so primarily what we're here tonight is for actual parcels of property. The 5 total parcels that we're looking to declare as surplus. 2 of them are the ones that we discussed during the May, I think it was work session, or it was a May discussion item topic. It was the properties up at, my thing cut off. It was 5534 Broadmoor Street. And then the kind of the vacant part where we had the discussion whether or not you could lot split that into 2 additional parcels. So it was those 2 parcels, which were and we had some further conversations on. So that's what this item would declare, those 2 as surplus. In addition, the other ones on here are the 3 city-owned parcels at the Mission Transit site. So this is a technical step for us to declare them as surplus, with the next step being that the Encore Development Project will purchase those with the $250,000 payment as part of their project. So this is just kind of the technical piece for that to move forward, as well as for the city to potentially pursue selling the 2 lots up on Broadmoor on the northwest part of town. Happy to stand for any questions.
Hey, Justin, do we have any questions or comments? Looks like no. Oh, sorry. Ben, did you have one?
Yeah. I think maybe this was at the July 8th meeting that I wasn't here for, and I haven't seen any minutes for that yet. So what the Broadmoor parcels, how did we acquire those and why do we want rid of them?
At least the one at
It's 5534.
5534 Broadmoor was acquired back in 2006, I believe. There was some discussion at that time about bringing Broadmoor, extending Broadmoor up and connecting it to Fox Ridge. So there were parcels. There was actually a single family home on that parcel, which we demolished after we tore that down. I think what we've heard, I'm not sure based on how the development has occurred or is occurring in that area is a little bit different than what was envisioned 20 years ago. I think there have been some concerns that we've heard from the neighbors about that Broadmoor extension and a desire for that Broadmoor extension. We've also been approached, and there's been some folks that have expressed interest in purchasing parcels for construction of single family residential properties in that area. So I think I don't know that if we look at, I think we presented when we talked about that, I think the price tag 20 years ago on that extension was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 3.5 million. So escalate that for inflation. Not sure where that falls on our priority list anywhere in the probably next 20 years or so.
Yeah, that part makes sense. I'm pretty hesitant to give away any potential right of way, even if we don't have any concrete plans for it. I think for the time being, I'll probably, since I'm just kind of really, I think, understanding what these are, bring some concrete questions to staff and ask this go on the regular agenda.
Okay.
And this is the technical first step for that. So any sort of sale or anything would still ultimately need approval. So.
Okay, perfect.
So I think if we look at these 2 parcels, the location of the one that would potentially be replatted or split, if you think about where it sits in relationship to another existing business that fronts on Broadmoor, there would be some additional property acquisition that would need to happen as well. There is, if you go through the 5534 Broadmoor, there's another 1.82 acre parcel that we own that we recommended we hold on to. I think the mayor raised the issue about, is that something we might want to put together a proposal and take out to the development community about maybe some of that missing middle housing and some opportunities there. So we wanted to just move forward with these, again, recognizing that every piece of ground that we own is valuable, and we want to make sure we're making prudent decisions about that.
Thank you. I heard that will go on the regular agenda.
I heard that as well.
Any other Questions or comments on this item? No? Okay, thank you. Our final action item this evening is for consideration of a special event permit application for the Warner Stellian Appliance Company picnic from Robin Folks.
Yes, thank you. The love and interest of our beautiful Mohawk Park rolls on this summer, and I come to you with another special event permit application, this time on behalf of Warner's Stellian Appliance. They are holding their annual company picnic at Mohawk Park on Sunday, September 27th. And they are having music, they serve dinner to their guests, and they are hoping to let their guests bring beer or hard seltzers to the event. The event is family friendly. It is by invitation only. It is from 4:30 to 8 p.m. So not an especially loud or raucous event, but they are excited to host it at Mohawk Park and would like to obtain permission for them to have alcohol as an option, but not the main focus of the event.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Don't see any. Any public? No. Your recommendation, please. Consent. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will be back next month with a similar recommendation on behalf of the Millhaven Homes Association.
Wonderful. We do have one discussion item this evening related to the 2026 revised and 2027 draft budget discussions from Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. You've already seen enough budget PowerPoint presentations. For the time being, we'll be back up with that in a couple of weeks with our community dialogue. But what was included in the packet on Friday and then updated yesterday is really just a continuing summarization of the conversations that we've been having through the month of July, in particular, some of the conversations and the decision packages that were discussed at our July 29th work session. So the packet that was presented this evening really summarized what we heard as some direction from those conversations and what that looks like when we take that and incorporate that into the actual budget document. So update to the general fund summary. And as was included here, decision packages as they were presented back on July 29th, 1, 2, and 4, and I'll touch briefly on what those were incorporated into the recommended budget. And decision package 3 would potentially be incorporated if we decide to move forward with the sale of any of the surplus city-owned property that was recently just discussed. In addition, we'll kind of touch briefly on, wanted to provide a little bit more detail on the 5-year CIP, in particular, the projects to be included in 2027. And then think about and ask you to please think about and give us feedback between now and really the end of next week about anything specific you would like included in the community budget dialogue or put out there as we move toward developing a final recommended budget and then holding the public hearing on the budget. So as we look at the decision packages that were incorporated, so decision package number 1 made the $1.50 a month adjustment to the solid waste utility fee for each single family household. That was the resolution that we also just discussed a few moments ago. That allows us, we have not adjusted that fee since 2022 for our single family households. It allows us to really better align revenues with the increasing cost of providing that service. The city over that same time period has absorbed 100% of the increases that have been presented by GFL as our trash hauler. That generates about, you'll recall, about $25,000 to $30,000 in additional revenue. And so that's reflected by a reduction in the transfer from the general fund to the solid waste utility fund for 2027. Decision package number 2 reallocates general fund resources to implement potential recommendations coming out of a classification and compensation study. Again, we talked about the last couple of meetings that during your May retreat, one of the big areas of emphasis was staff recruitment, retention, succession planning. We haven't done a comprehensive classification and compensation study since 2015 or 2017, excuse me, some slight modifications and updates since 2021. And so this recommendation would for 2026 and 2027 reduce the transfer from the general fund to the capital improvement fund for streets in the amount of $100,000 in each year and that money be set aside for the classification and compensation study, which we estimate would be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably the study itself about 25,000, and the balance of that would be left for implementation. So all of the implementation decisions and the final adoption of a new salary structure, should that be recommended, would come back to the council for discussion, deliberation, and action. So none of that goes into effect without additional council action. And then decision package number 4, which is incorporated, and we had a lot of discussion around this last week. And I wanted to show you that if you wanted to proceed with a 5-year lease, purchase program for the replacement of the street sweeper, the Ford F-550 truck in Public Works, and 3 admin police vehicles, converting those to hybrid vehicles, that we would be able to accommodate that annual lease purchase payment. We still have a lot of work to do. I suspect you all still have a lot of questions. So again, this is something that's reflected in the budget. But each of those component steps will have to come back to you for action. So as we're continuing to evaluate a standalone lease for the street sweeper, for example, comparing some interest rates and looking at some other options for that. So we'll bring those back, but none of that was expected to occur in 2026. So again, reflected, council's completely in the driver's seat on all of that still. And then decision package number 3 was some one-time purchases, or relatively one-time purchases, that we would accommodate if we were to sell any of the surplus city properties. Part of that would be dedicated to purchase of new financial management software and the higher implementation cost in year 1, and then an update and sort of redo of and refresh of the city's website. If there were any proceeds left, we would continue to just sort of hold on to those in anticipation of some of the larger public safety expenses, like replacement of the radio system, records management system that we discussed last week. So those are the things that have been reflected. As you can see, we still have a small amount of excess fund balance at the end of 2027. So we've met all of our other objectives in terms of keeping a 25% reserve balance and making the other debt service obligations. So that's kind of where we would stand today on our recommendation for the general fund budget. And then on the capital improvement fund side, the longer we work with this and the more I think about things that we should change or reformat is we give you project narrative in one place and we give you dollar amounts in another place, and we expect you to put all of the pieces of that puzzle together and then have it make sense. So we reformatted a table to look at the 2027 projects, which when we look at a 5-year CIP, it is only those projects in that next fiscal year that you're budgeting for. And again, similar to the things that we've just been discussing with the decision packages, we reflect them, but all of these are over a dollar amount. And so because they're reflected in the budget or the CIP does not mean they will move forward without your approval. So as you know, all of the construction projects, whether that's design, construction, inspection, the actual contract work, comes back to you for review and approval. And you'll be touching particularly street projects, I believe. I don't want to steal the thunder from an upcoming work session, but we've been talking as we look at complete streets policy about what's the appropriate touch point for council as it relates to design of street projects. And that's different than your touch point on a street project. We anticipate will be different moving forward than where it is now. So we tried to incorporate for you, again, this table, and it breaks it out by the categories that we budget in. And then the thing that I like about this, and this is typically what we share out with the public, is that in 2027, we anticipate we are going to spend, if I can find the right page, I think the number is 23 million, almost $24 million on stormwater, streets, and parks infrastructure. When you see that number all in, I think it has a really significant impact than when you look at it on even $1 million or a $2 million project at a time. So that's capturing what we're anticipating would move forward in 2027. We also included some additional narrative. This is sort of reviving something and a practice that we did many years ago And that is trying to keep projects which have not yet been included in any particular budget, whether that's the upcoming fiscal year or the 5-year plan, but that we know we've talked about, that we know we want to keep on the horizon for discussion purposes. We want to talk about those. So in this memo you saw, for example, we need to update conceptual plans for Anderson Park, Broadmoor Park, and potentially Streamway Park. We haven't done that, so we don't know what improvements are going to be recommended. So you'll see here in the narrative that was provided yesterday, we're just holding placeholders for those. And so as the conceptual plans move forward and we have that public input, we'll be able to talk about how best to incorporate those into future budgets. Same thing with streets. We're really kind of at that point in all 3 of the CIP program areas, whether it's streets, stormwater, or parks, where we're collecting information. Streets, we're reviewing the PCI, the recent PCI inventory, kind of reshuffling the deck on those streets, thinking about how we fund CARS projects, thinking about a complete streets policy, thinking about an implementation of Safe Streets for All. Stormwater, we're looking at, with the potential foreclosure litigation at Gateway, that dollars will become available. We talked about a localized drainage project. We need to get back to that list and sort of review and evaluate the projects that remain on that list as well. And then I touched on several of the parks things. So lots of work to be done, lots of work that's ongoing as it relates to the CIP and infrastructure. And then finally, as we kind of move toward the end of the budget process, next 2 weeks from now, we would have our community dialogue ahead of the city council meeting. So that's a legislative meeting for you all at 7. So at 6 o'clock, we would plan to hold the community dialogue, which is really where we just present for the public. Last year we created, you may recall, a budget and brief document that we put out that kind of just really hits the highlights of the budget process, answer any questions, but that gives us an opportunity to incorporate anything that we might hear from the public into the budget before it gets to its final adoption stage. And then we would touch it lightly again at the September committee meeting, hold the required public hearing at the September 16th meeting, which if you think about the planning entitlement and zoning entitlement process that's coming forward, those may be aligning at the same meeting. And just heads up for that. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of where we stand in the process. And I figured you didn't need to see a PowerPoint presentation to think about that.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, Debbie, go ahead.
Do we have a list of all the properties that the city currently owns and the value of those?
Value is, we do have a list of all city-owned properties. I think we shared that map recently. So if you may have been absent at that meeting, we can certainly get you that map. Establishing the value is a little bit challenging because what do you use? Do you use what the market value might be? Do you use what the appraised value might be? So we kind of have to look at that on a case-by-case basis.
But you would be establishing a dollar value on the 5534 Broadmoor property, would you not?
We would be, I think what we talked about when we discussed surplusing it is that we would move forward with a sealed bid process and we would establish a floor on that sealed bid. We have not done that yet. We're still collecting information and we'll have some other conversations about what that is. We would design that process though of always giving you, kind of to Councilmember Chosey's point, we'll always give you 100% discretion that even if you get a bid at or above the floor, you have discretion to accept or reject it for any reason.
I'm sorry. Oh, Wanda. Yeah, Wanda, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, I'm just a little bit, I don't know what a placeholder is. What is that?
So a placeholder means we're just ballparking what we think improvements would be. So we don't know yet so let's just talk about conceptual park planning. So if we don't know if we hire a consultant to do a conceptual park plan and we take public input and we put up a map and people put their wish lists up and we move the parts and pieces around at the end of the day, we'll come up with a list of improvements. That could be a new playground structure. It could be new, I don't know, water features, walking tracks, restrooms, all kinds of things. So it's the amenities that would go in the park. And those will have a price tag associated. So generally, what we have seen in our park planning processes is that in a park like Broadmoor or Anderson, you're going to be somewhere in the $800 to $1.2 million range. So because we don't know what all would be included in that price tag, we say, think about a placeholder. Now, you could potentially phase those improvements. You could do it all at one time. But that's generally what we mean. That's kind of our best guess at this time about what a project or a group of projects might cost. And so we want to just kind of keep that, rather than not giving you any idea what it might cost. That allows us to kind of really make some better educated decisions in that process. Does that answer your question?
So does that mean that's built into the budget?
No, it means it's there in some cases as a placeholder, and I would use on the street side the CARS project. So we know the street 5-year plan, the CARS projects, we've submitted those to the county. They have a 5-year plan from us. We know if we look at the bottom line on the street CIP, we're upside down in terms of funds that are available. So I would call that a true placeholder. That's our best guess at what we think that project would be. We don't have, and we have between now and 2029, 2030, 2031 to either move that project, find additional dollars, find other people's money, our money to do that. But we at least know the target that we're aiming for in that process.
So this is a future ask. This is a projection.
Could be. So the every year, but 2027 is kind of our best guess and our plan for what might happen in all of those program areas in the next 5 years.
Okay, now I did see somewhere that there's EVs that we're placing those so is that something that we could drop if we get into trouble with our budget? Or do we have to go ahead and put those in?
We don't have to, but now would be the time to make that decision. I think as we discussed last week, we have I think you said about $25,000 or $30,000 worth of sunk cost in design for the charging stations at the Powell Community Center and Broadmoor Park through a regional grant program. So now would be the time, because we're getting to the point where they're needing to go to bid for actual construction of those. If you don't want to participate, it takes about another $75,000, I think is what we've got included in the 5-year CIP to move through the construction piece. If we say no now, then we have spent $30,000 in design that we aren't going to use or take advantage of. And we would not have, if we wanted to come back and put those in the future, we would not have the benefit of grant funds to help offset any of the cost of that.
Are there any additional questions or comments? No? Thank you. I don't believe there are additional department updates.
Unless somebody thought of something that they forgot to mention. Okay.
No? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, then it is now 7:40 p.m. And with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee.